Hello there, welcome to the Fully Booked Penguin channel. I am Hannah and today we are looking over my December reads in this reading wrap-up. I actually got to read a whole heap of books during December, mostly before Christmas. I kind of binged a novella series and then a wide range of everything else. I only missed 2 books on my TBR, but I did still get over my 100 book of goal for the year with this month, so I'm happy. Now it says on Storygraph I read 16 books, but I'm not sure if that includes my DNFs. At least one. And then I got through the rest and got a lower rating. But we'll go through all of that in a minute. Mostly I read romance and then fantasy. I think the romance was mainly the novellas. That was the biggest boost to that category. And most of what I read was ebooks. So, which usually I don't do great at reading ebooks, but this month I managed to focus and get that done with the help of some audiobooks to aid in the reading. And in the end I had an average rating of 3.86. So I will bring up the books now and we're going to review them as we go. Some of them do have reading vlogs, so I might send you over there for more detailed reviews and kind of try and be brief with them in this video. I'll still state what I thought and what I didn't like, but the full rants and everything will be in the videos that I'll link below and in the cards. So the first book I read in December is The Villainess is a Marionette. And this is by Manggle, and the original story is by Hanirim. And this is volume 1 of the series. In this one we are following a girl who is in the real world, isekais or transmigrates into a novel, and in that novel she becomes the villainess slash princess who ends up being killed by her younger brother when he ascends the throne. And he betrays her because she was supporting him. He was less supportive, sort of saw her as a puppet figure because she did all this stuff for him to make him the emperor. And then he was like, goodbye, sister. I mean, we've all seen the isekai time loop villainess stories before, but I would say this is more targeted towards more mature audiences. I wouldn't have anyone too young picking up this one, just because some of the themes, are more mature leaning, I think. I think the artwork is gorgeous. You can't deny that the artwork is impeccable. So your eyeballs will thank you at the very least. As for Kiana, our main girl, she is smart enough to set plans in place and cunning. She's cunning, but she's also retains her kindness towards people that do the same towards her. She isn't completely cruel to everyone and everything in her aim to get revenge or, live. And then there is I think he's the love interest. He seems pretty cool. Your typical jukey type man with his dark hair and everything. But I will be interested to see how he grows through the series. And then we have Regif, who is Kiana's brother. And of course she's being nice to him, or, cunning enough to handle him this time around. And there's weird vibes between them, which I'm not sure about. At the moment, it's okay. But it is a little creepy. Also in this one there's a lot of intrigue and cast on manipulations and political maneuverings and all that, which you have to keep on top of as well, just to add to the who's working with who and who's against who and how much power does Kiana really have, if any, and how she's growing that power, because otherwise she can't do anything anyway without this growth. But there's plenty of princess beauty and cheerfulness mixed into it as well. So for a more adult manhwa, I'm enjoying it. So I will get the next one and keep going. As I say, there's a few bits that I'm a bit iffy about, but hopefully as I go on, that all works itself out or doesn't get too bad. But yeah, the art is gorgeous, so I really want it to stay okay. So for this one, I gave it a 4.5 stars. Very, very good. I enjoyed myself thoroughly, but yeah, it's for a more mature audience, and just a few things that I was like, don't do it, author, don't do it. For the next 4 books I read, I did a indie publishing digital ebook reading vlog for, and you can go check that out for more detailed musings and everything like that. But for starters, I read Warbound by Tara Grayce, and in it we are following these elves and humans. They're making an alliance through a marriage with one of their princesses to a prince, and it's more focusing on Essie and Farendel's relationship, and then how they're managing the political intrigue and different plottings of the bad guys and all that in this realm, because there's trolls to the north, and the trolls have been attacking the elves, may have tortured the prince as he marries Farendel, and there's a whole heap of people working with each other to make sure the trolls win against the elves, and they don't want that, obviously, because we don't want the little elves being wiped out, but some people do. So it's a fantasy romance, probably YA, and yeah, it's got funny parts, a few cute romance moments, and then yeah, all the political intrigue, adventure, fantasy style. I gave it a 4.5. I enjoyed the relationship between Essie and Farendel and Essie's family, because in this one they were visiting Essie's family in the castle back in the human realm, and they were also investigating this gun smuggling operation. Gonna be sussing that out. But I really just love the family vibes of Essie's family, because the elven family, they aren't quite so warm. They don't believe in showing affection to each other. And of course, they were quite standoffish towards Essie as well, because she's a human and they hate humans. And whereas Essie's family, even though they're sort of cautious, they're really welcoming. So I enjoyed that. And then, yeah, it ended on a cliffhanger. The nerve. So I'll have to go into book 3 shortly, because you can't just drop me off a little cliff, leave me hanging there, just by a thread, wondering what on earth is happening. How do we get out of this predicament? So that was, yeah, book 2 in the Elven Alliance series, Warbound. I gave it a 4.5. It was really good and fun little read. So looking forward to reading the rest of the series for that one. Next up, I have The Magic of Sea Glass by Jenny Hale, and it is a contemporary romance. I thought it was women's fiction, but it's mainly a romance. In this, we are following a lady who has recently lost her fiancé, and her fiancé made her promise to go visit the seaside when he was alive. So she up and sells her half of the business, and then goes to the seaside, to this inn, to help over the summer. And she meets several characters along the way, and she may discover that she might have a connection to this place. There's also this guy who is like an odd jobs bloke at the inn. He does little things every now and then. He's a good guy, but yeah, he's just I don't know what he does, to be honest. I think he's just does a bit of everything. I really wanted it to focus more on like the women's fiction, her grief over her fiance, and her renovating the inn and helping out the inn owner, and I would have really loved if the author had fleshed out that side of the story. But instead we get the more romance side of things, and well, let's just say I didn't really like the romance. It felt a little forced and way too quick, along with everything in this book. The entire book covers 2 weeks, I think. And in the 2 weeks, she renovates the place. She organised their accounts and their, you know, everything else at the inn. And then she also hosts this wedding show and helps organise this lady's wedding. And then she's also out here having breaks every so often so she can catch up with the romantic interest and have him say, you need to open up. And I am the solution to all of your issues. Me, the male lead. Even though the other people in your life, the inn owner, etc., give more poignant advice and comfort to your grief. I go into it fully in the vlog, but yeah, the romance just wasn't there for me, and it was far too short a period for all this growth and character development and healing to take place. It was just too rushed. So I gave it a 3 stars because I did like the parts where she was speaking to the inn owner and that about her grief and her loss. And so I liked that side of it. I even didn't mind the mystery connections to the past and present line either. But yeah, I just didn't feel the romantic side, which seemed to just reiterate what the other characters were saying, but then putting it on like, oh, this man is so good. He's just so great. And I'm like, but is he? Is he though? So yes, 3 stars for The Magic of Sea Glass. Finally, I finished up the Pack of Dawn and Destiny series by K.M. Shea, and those 2 books was united and then fated. So in this we are following Pip, who is a werewolf hunter, but she was actually adopted by a werewolf pack, and recently the pack has a new leader called Grayce, and at first she sort of bumps head with Grayce because she really liked the previous leader. A whole heap of stuff might be happening with her hunter magic. People are turning humans into werewolves. Wolfsbane is turning werewolves crazy, and so they don't have their wits about them. And then also there's this power struggle / magic happening, and yeah, there's a whole heap of stuff. It really follows 3 different occurrences in each book, as in one for each book. I really enjoyed the series. I liked Pip and Grayson as a couple. I do feel like their relationship kind of dropped off after book 1. Book 1 was actually probably better for the romance side, and then book 2 was okay, like they developed and that was good, but yeah, I just felt like they didn't spend much time together, as I would have wished they had spent some more, just focused on them a little bit more in their development. But the little bit of mystery in that was pretty cool too. I did guess who the biggest bad guy was, but you can expect that most of the time with me, so I will foresee who the bad guy is. Call it writer's intuition, or maybe I've read too many books so I know plot structure, but yeah. So I enjoyed it. It was good. There were funny bits, there was really good found family, or like family dynamics as well with the pack, and then we get to see little appearances from people or characters from other books. I did feel it focused a little too much on the Fae at times. I would have been happier if they just focused more on the romance in that moment, or maybe the pack, rather than so much focus and moments with the Fae. But I understand it was a tie-in and everything, and the Fae did help out in the end, so you had to have them there at some point. But I do enjoy K.M. Shea's writing, just as a lighter fantasy. Nothing too mind-boggling, but yeah, just a fun little fantasy read with some romance thrown in. So I gave a 4.5 to United, which is the second book in the series. And then it seems I haven't reviewed the third one, but I think I'd give it a 4. Just, I really would have liked the romance to be developed a little bit further. It was good, but yeah, I would have liked a little bit more. So I'm giving it a 4 stars for Fated, the finale of that trilogy. So now we can move on with the Magiford Supernatural City series, which is just a collection of trilogies. So I think we have 2 more trilogies to go, and then we're finished with that series. So that's exciting. Okay, next up we have Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. Well, I say it's book 4 in the Throne of Glass series because I include the novellas as a book. But if you look at it online, it's probably book 3. This follows Selena. She's an assassin. She's captured in this prison, and then she's taken out by the prince of the country and put into this game style thing in order to become the king's champion, i.e. assassin for the king, who's evil. And there's actually an entire cast of characters. So there's Selena, there's Dorian, there's Hale. So Dorian's the prince, Hale's the guard, captain of the guard. Then there's more gets added as you go through the series. In this one, we are following Selena as she does a whole heap of stuff. No, she goes overseas to this Feyland and tries to get information about something. And meanwhile, Hale's at the castle falling in love, and Hale is doing a lot of work on his little lonesome. No, he has allies that aren't really allies. He's working with a group, but not really, because everyone could be against him at any moment. And if you can't tell, I feel so sorry for this Hale. Captain of the guard. He does so much work in this. In fact, he probably does the most work. Selena sort of goes to the Fae, gets a grumpy grandpa that follows her around everywhere and trains her by slapping her about the head and they're saying, use your powers, and she's like, no, I don't want to. And so he abuses her a bit more, and she kind of likes it and ends up working and maybe developing a friendship with this man, his grandpa. Anyway, that is the worst synopsis I've ever given, but you might tell by the dryness and my previous reviews of the Throne of Glass series, I don't especially love some of the characters in it. It did do one thing. I don't hate Selena as much as I used to. I hate other people more than Selena, and isn't that a great thing? Growth. I don't know how that is growth, but growth. We get a new character in this as well. We're following a witchy girl, which I didn't particularly love, because witches are weird and drink blood and all that sort of gross stuff, and they abuse each other all the time. In the name of power, they're like, let's bash each other up. Lovely. Love you too, witchlings. With series that I don't particularly love, I tend to remember everything that was wrong with it, and not so much what was right about it. But I did love Hale, and right at the end of the book, Hale does something, and that just cements himself in first place. Truly 10 out of 10. I spent the whole book trying to defend my man, and he's not my man, but, you know, platonically my man. The person I'm cheering on in this series, let's put it that way. People were just so mean to him, for no apparent reason. And he's just a little man with a sword, trying to defeat all evil. Poor lad. I buddy read this series with a friend, and she doesn't mind Grandpa and all the other characters. So I did have to rein in my annoyance, because I was hate reading at one point. One weekend's reviews, I just hate read it, and it came through in my notes. And so I had to calm down and try to look at the positive when I read it, because I was being so angry. And I think my friend was concerned for my mental well-being. So I've decided I just can't take this book very seriously. I have to go into it just expecting YA tropes and predictability, because I can foresee Sarah's style. She has a very distinct pattern of how she makes the main characters do things, and it may include death. So she kills off characters that aren't the main character in order to make the main characters do something, whether it's to explode in a rage or push them to actually do something with their lives. And I hate that pattern, that writer's technique. It's just lazy writing, in my opinion. So I wouldn't say they're bad books. It's just, it does cater to a certain audience, and I just feel that I am not that audience. So I think I'm giving it a 3 stars. I can't bag it out simply because I foresaw everything coming and hate half the characters. Well, over half the characters. But yeah, it's just not to my taste. So no doubt we have more self-sacrificing death and mayhem to come in this series, but we'll continue on. It makes it fun because I'm reading it with someone. If I didn't read it with someone, I don't know if I would endure the torture and the grandpa and the everything else that isn't Hale, Grayce, or Fleetfoot. I probably wouldn't be able to enjoy. But it does make it fun reading with someone. So I am still enjoying my reading because I have a friend to do it with. But otherwise, if I had to slug through it alone, it would have been out the door books ago, I think. The next 6 books I'm going to talk about are in a novella Christmas sports romance series called the Peppermint Playbook series. They are written by 6 different authors, so 1 book per author, and we are following these athletes who go to this ski resort for Christmas to do a charity event where they do different Christmassy things and meet with fans and that sort of thing. But we follow a different athlete each book, and that's kind of the gist of it. Half of them have injuries and everything as well. I'm not going to go into full details because I do have the reading vlog for that, so I really will just briefly run through them all. So the first book is Jingle Blades by Tommy Tab. In this we are following a figure skater and then her best friend's brother, who they met a little while ago, and they may have been crushing on each other ever since. I really actually enjoyed this one. It was a 5 stars for me. I just liked the Christmas vibes, and they were really nice with each other, and there was no big miscommunications or anything like that. And the bestie was really helpful in their relationship as well. It's kind of pushed them together. It was supportive, which I like to see. And yeah, it was just a cute Christmassy romance. The next book was Serving Scrooge by Katie Nelson, and in this we are following a tennis player and then a concierge at the ski resort. And it's the girl's job to host the tennis player who is a little bit injured and is grumpy about being here and may have trauma around Christmas, and her job to make him enjoy the activities. But yeah, because of the trauma, the girl helps him work his way through that. And I wouldn't say it's the most Christmassy one because he has trauma related to Christmas, obviously, but it was still kind of cute romance. And I liked that the girl, despite the guy being a grumpy Gus, she didn't take it too hard and didn't get all grumpy about it. And he very quickly apologized and saw his, own faults for what they were. And yeah, it's just a little bit cute. So I gave that one a 5 stars as well. Unfortunately, the next one, which is Checking You Twice by Larissa Holmes, it was a DNF for me because, well, the main plot is an ice hockey player and then just a random girl who turns out to be hockey guy's cousin's girlfriend. The hockey guy and the girl bump into each other before the event, and they share a kiss under a mistletoe and spend some time together over like a lunch. But then they meet up again, and he discovers that she's dating his cousin, and yeah, so it's a cheating scenario. The girl is cheating on her boyfriend and getting emotionally involved and physically involved with the ice hockey player, even though in her head she's like, I'm going to break up with my boyfriend. She hasn't done it yet, and it gets to a certain way through and she still hasn't broken up with the boyfriend, and she is clearly cheating on him at that point. So I DNF'd it because I hate books that have that. She should have broken up with the boyfriend well before she started growing her relationship with the ice hockey player. I go on a little rant in the vlog, but yeah, I couldn't do it. It was so bad. Then number 4 was Fumble All The Way by Deb Goodman, and it is an NFL player and then a ballroom dancing competitive dancer. And in this one, the girl is teaching the guy to dance because he's in trouble for saying something in an interview, and to win back his reputation, he has to take part in this dance and this charity event. He is not exactly happy about it. Anyway, I didn't like this one. I go into all the details in the video, of course. But yeah, they were just back and forth, and then one, like, they have chemistry, but then the guy is a complete idiot. And so when the girl responds to these mean comments or this sort of brush off cold nature, then the guy gets all snooty and he's just like me about it. And I'm like, oh well, if it isn't the consequences of my actions. So I really didn't like the romance, really, to be honest. And it all gets wrapped up. But yeah, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel like their chemistry or relationship would extend beyond the end of the book. I felt like they would break up just a few weeks later, to be honest. They didn't have any relationship beyond this attraction. They were both a little too selfish, but mainly the bloke was the most selfish out of the two of them. So I gave that book a 2.5. Yeah, it was a book. It was readable, but it wasn't lovable at all. Which brings us to The Holiday Assist by Taylor Epperson. And in this one, we are following a female soccer player and her best friend's brother, younger brother, actually. And in this one, the soccer player invites her bestie and the brother to the ski resort as her companions for the event. And her bestie gets ill, so she has to hang out with the younger brother. And the younger brother has a crush on her and has for a while. And of course, now he's hot. So the soccer player is like, interested. Again, the best friend was good fun in this one. But yeah, there was a lot of manuscript errors, unfortunately. And also the author name dropped or hinted at, alluded to an upcoming series of hers. And so it was mostly had these scenes where she's making the connections for this other series, and it took away from this book. So unfortunately, it didn't make me want to read the other series. It made me annoyed that we weren't getting this relationship and this book in this book. So yeah, it wasn't a very polished manuscript, and it was also, yeah, too distracted with hinting at another series. So I gave it a 2.5 as well. I think if she'd focused on the relationship and this book, it would have been better. And the final book in this novella series was Deck the Hills by Michelle Angus. And in this one, we are following a snowboarder and then a ski resort employee, but he does like snowboarding lessons and is a mountain man, and he loves Christmas. And she doesn't really do Christmas after her mother has passed away. Now, I really loved this romance, and I really loved the main two characters. It had 10 out of 10 Christmas vibes. It had a 10 out of 10 relationship and communication. However, the conflict of the book is that the main girl, snowboarder, she has an ex, and this ex was manipulative and emotionally abusive, and so they've broken up, but he happens to be also at this charity event and acts as if they are together again when they are clearly not. So he touches her and crowds her and threatens her, and sexually harasses her. And fortunately, our mountain man is there to protect her, but the entire situation isn't handled well by the characters or the author. The mountain man reports this guy to the owner of the resort, and the owner pretty much says, oh, well, we can't really do much. Like, I don't want to get the publicity involved. There'll be tons of publicity if we, make a fuss and kick this guy out of the resort. You'll have plenty of publicity when it's revealed you allowed a man to sexually harass one of your athletes and turned a blind eye to it, I should think. But yeah, that's just mentioned and then brushed aside, and so Mountain Man kind of has to stay around and protect the girl. And then the ex's comeuppance isn't handled to my satisfaction either, because the ex is known to tell the main girl that she cries too much, or she's ugly when she cries and you shouldn't cry, and blah blah. And the author decided that the ex's comeuppance would come in the form of a punch to the nose, but then the ex starts crying. Every comment of the main characters is, oh, how gross, ew, how off-putting, a man crying, ew. You can't say I want to have men with emotional depth and then also say, but a man crying is just gross. Sure, he was crying because of the consequences of his own actions, but the focus wasn't on this coward, evil man. It was on the fact that he was ugly when he cried. And so I'm like, you kind of missed the point there. It was just not handled well, and it was really sad because the rest of the book I really liked. The romance and the relationship and the healing and everything was really well done, but not those few points. And so I had to give it a 3 stars. I couldn't overlook those couple of points where it really wasn't handled or written well. Right, so the next book I read was Newt Emerald by Garth Nix. This is like a Regency fantasy situation. It's set in like England, but we sort of follow a world which has magic and different wielders of magic and that sort of thing. And we are following Newt, who has a little control over the weather. But her father has this emerald, which we discover has some sort of power to it and is very sought after. However, it is stolen. And in order to track it down, she disguises as a cousin, like a distant cousin or something, and a man. And so she can maneuver around London freely. But along the way, she bumps into a man who is also investigating several different things and is suspicious of her, i.e. her cousin, because he is French, and therefore suspicious because of, different wars going on. Does this tale have the most complex plot and characters? No. But I had fun going through these magic woven, British lands and following Newt and her disguised self. Everything kind of goes along without too much trouble, and could it have used some seasoning, some salt and pepper to it? Absolutely. But it was also just easy and fun to read about. And the romance was rather sweet and unproblematic, which I actually enjoy. And I think the first few chapters definitely made it feel slower, but when you get into the book, it's better upon acquaintance. It moves a bit better after the first couple of chapters. And yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. It was just fun and light and didn't take too much brain power. The audiobook also was fun to read alongside. It helped add to the ambiance and the experience that I had with the book as well. So I definitely recommend it as a YA historical fantasy that's quick and easy to read. I gave it a 4 stars. As I say, was it the greatest, most high stakes thing in the world? No, but it was enjoyable nonetheless for me. So yeah, 4 stars for that one. Next was a buddy read of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. In this we are following a boy, Harry, who discovers he's a wizard. His parents were killed by an evil wizard. He goes to a school to learn magic and runs into friends, but also because of the evil wizard, he does get into a lot of trouble, and the school feels like it's an OHS problem because danger and death seems to wait around every single corridor. In this one, we are following Harry, who somehow ends up in this trial. He's technically too young for this trial, but he somehow gets into it, and he has to compete against these other champions of these 2 other schools as well as Hogwarts. So there ends up 4 competitors in the thing. I will say the first 2/3 of this book dragged like a wet week. It was so slow, and the main characters were so annoying, except for Hermione. But Ron and Harry, I don't know what got into them in this book, but they were so insufferable. But thankfully it does pick up near the end, and we get to see some other characters that I like in it as well, and we get revealed of one of my more favourite side characters, which was sad for him, absolutely, but it made me understand him a bit more. And yeah, a whole heap of other things happen at the end of this book, which brings us into the ending of the series, well, the next 2 books. In the first 3 books, it's rather easy to tell who the bad guy is, but in this one it was actually mysterious. I didn't immediately pick it. Was it that the bad guy was kind of hidden most of the time? Yeah. The ending was way more intriguing, and I was rather interested in that. But now we have a giant book to continue on with, and that scares me. But for this book, I gave it a 3 stars. Just the first chunk of it was just so slow, so boring. It was like watching elementary school drama. It was just they needed to think about it a little bit. Next up we have Beyond the River by Robert Elmer. This is a middle grade Christian historical fiction set in Denmark with the Second World War. And we are following twins, a boy and a girl, as they go to visit some relatives, an aunt and uncle, and a English plane is shot down over them, and so it follows, the adventures of trying to hide stuff from the Germans, and also faith aspects as well, because it is a Christian book. I really enjoy this series. It weaves the adventure and faith aspects really well as sort of highlighting what happened to people during the Second World War in Denmark. Sort of the resistance and the Germans and all that are included in this. So this is book 2 of the Young Underground series. I believe there's a total of 8 books in it. But yeah, I enjoyed my time with this book. It's light reading because it's a middle grade. I think it would be good for parents to read to their children. And I ended up giving it a 4.5. No huge details to tell you, but yeah, just a really good adventure Christian children's novel. Alright, next up we have Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing and Song. This is the first novel in the light novel series. And in this we are following Kim Dokcha, who is the sole reader of this web novel series, and it is coming to an end. However, along the way he discovers that the real world is morphing into the world of the novel he was reading. And because he has read this novel, he gets some stats and perks from the author or the world because of that. Now this world is gore-filled. It is chaos and murder and evil. Because it's an apocalyptic world, there's monsters and there's goblins, which I believe are called something different in the Korean version, but they're called goblins in the English translation. And they pretty much run these games that if you don't listen to the quests, then your head explodes when you fail it. And the first quest they are given is to kill someone in the time limit, which is obviously very gore-filled and a lot of chaos ensues. But Dokcha manages to find a way through the scenario. He has to be a bit cold because the moment these scenarios begin, it starts to show the depravity and what lengths people will go to in order to survive. This is definitely not my style of book, usually. Similar to Solo Leveling, which is another one that has a lot of gore and murder and just evilness in it. I can only read it because our main characters are so overpowered. They are on top of every scenario because they either know what's happening or in Solo Leveling, just so overpowered. And I love that. That's the only reasons I could read anything like that, is when the main characters know everything and are on top of everything, because it takes the stress away, because you know that them and their allies will survive. I'm sure some of them will die later on, but for now, they're all living because of the main characters. There he is. So yes, are the characters way overpowered? Absolutely. They are, and I love that for them and for me, because it would be way too evil and dark for me, personally, if they didn't. Now, don't get me wrong, there is still a lot of gore and death and definitely themes that you should check trigger warnings for. I did see a review that hated the trope of the main character being overpowered. You know, so I know there are people that this will not work for because they want to see people suffer. Definitely that trope of overpowered, all-knowing. Well, not all-knowing, but at least on top of the plot enough to defeat everything in their path and continue to grow stronger, like RPG sort of gaming stats and all that. So I gave it a 4 stars, and I will continue with the series. If it gets too dark, I might have to slow down on it, but I know it's a well-loved series. People online call it ORV, ORV, And yeah, I'm intrigued to see what the other novels are like. And also, it's just pretty covers. I'll be honest, I want to collect it because I love the covers. The covers and the main character are really the main attractions to this series, and I admit that. So yeah, so 4 stars for novel 1 of Orv by Sin and Song. Alright, we have our final book, last but not least. We have An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, and this is a YA romantasy. In this, we are following Isabel, who is an artist. She paints portraits for the Fae, because the Fae can't do art themselves, so they hire humans to do it for them. And she has been doing it since she was very young, and she's rather well known throughout the Fae. And one day she is hired to do a portrait by the Prince of the Autumn realm in the Fae, Rook. And so she does this portrait. Unfortunately, she makes the mistake of painting mortal sorrow in his eyes, and Fae can't feel human emotions. So he comes back for her to hold her for trial for doing that, because he needs to maintain power over his Fae lands. But very quickly, a relationship starts to form instead, and as they journey through their Fae lands. The Fae in this are their disguised creatures. The beautiful selves they present are actually illusions. It's called glamour, and beneath are usually kind of hideous looking things, creatures of the imagination and nightmares. The first thing I had to get over in this book is, unfortunately, the author has done this thing that I find a lot of young adult authors do, and that is that she's aged our main character as 17 years old, and she ends up with an ancient Fae. I think authors and writers need to get it through their heads that YA doesn't mean your character has to be 16 or 17 years old. They can be older. Don't worry, the young adults of the world can read about slightly older protagonists. In fact, I would encourage that, especially when you put them with a 1,000-year-old Fae. Other than her being young for her artist talents, there's really no reason she had to be 17. The author could have made her 19 or 21 or like any of those ages, and it would have been perfectly fine. Still a bit weird. At least she wouldn't be a minor if just aged her up a little bit. And so fortunately, because of the way it's written, you can just age her up in your head, and it doesn't change anything, and it's not unbelievable to make her 20 something. So once I did that, I actually really liked the relationship between Isabel and Rook. I thought it wasn't the deepest of things, and neither is the plot. It kind of is not high stakes. The stakes are there, but it feels more cozy-esque, like we're just gliding through the Fae world. It picks up near the end, but it never feels super duper stressful or high stakes even then. But their relationship and the way they work together to go through all these things is just cute. It was adorable. So it's definitely not anything groundbreaking, but I actually really enjoyed my time with it. So I gave it a 4 stars. I had fun with it. The only thing I have to say about content warnings for YA is they do at one point make out, and they are tempted to proceed with other form of affection. However, they do not. And it's not super explicitly written either. There's no details or anything. They just think about it and then like, oh, actually we shouldn't do that. And then, yeah, there's pretty much just kisses afterwards. So if you're concerned about that, there is just that one scene that when you're like, oh, that they don't. Also, our main girl does find herself without clothes several times due to Fae stuff, but Rook is a complete gentleman in those scenarios. So the situations are rectified very quickly. In such situations where she finds herself in the room. But those are the only 2 things just to be aware of with the content. But yeah, 4 stars for An Enchantment of Ravens was actually kind of surprisingly good for me. And that brings us to the end of my December reading. With the help of manhwa, manga, and all the other books, I did get across my 100 book goal. I believe it's 105, and that's without DNFs. So I did pretty good, if I do say so myself. Pat on the back. Let me know down below how your December and, well, 2025 reading wrapped up. And I shall see you all in the next video, which is probably going to be a 2025 reading wrap-up book tag. So stay tuned for that one. And until then, peace.
126